3 a.m. You wake up for no apparent reason. Your body is exhausted, but your mind races. You feel a heavy feeling in your chest, something you can't explain. You go to the doctor, you run tests. Everything comes back normal, but you know something is wrong. What if I told you you're not depressed? What if what you're feeling isn't a mental illness, but your soul craving attention? Today, you'll discover why millions are being misdiagnosed, why medication doesn't fill this void, and most importantly, why your exhaustion might be the first sign of a spiritual awakening you never imagined. My name is written in the stars, but my mission is here, on Earth, with you. And in the next few minutes, everything you believe about your pain will change forever. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to carry an invisible weight? Like they're operating on low power mode, as if an essential part of them is fading? This is the first clue that we're dealing with something that goes far beyond traditional medicine. The human soul is like a flame. When it's healthy, it burns brightly and constantly. But when it's suffering, it begins to flicker, to tremble, to almost extinguish. And here's what no one tells you: your soul doesn't speak English. It doesn't send direct messages. It uses the only language it knows, the language of the body, of emotions, of symptoms. Pay attention to what I'm about to reveal, because this might explain years of suffering you couldn't understand. Spiritual fatigue manifests in very specific ways, and I bet you'll recognize yourself in at least 3 of them. First symptom: you sleep 8 hours, but you wake up more tired than when you went to bed. Your body rested, but something inside you kept working, struggling, processing issues your conscious mind doesn't even perceive. Second symptom: you feel disconnected from things that once gave you pleasure. That movie you loved now seems empty. That music that moved you doesn't stir anything anymore. It's as if someone has dimmed the brightness of the world. Third symptom, and this is the most revealing: you miss something you can't identify. It's not missing a person or a place. It's missing yourself. Who you were before you felt this way. A version of you that seems to have gotten lost along the way. Stop for a moment. Breathe deeply. Feel this in your chest. I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. Fourth symptom: you've become hypersensitive to the world around you. Crowded places drain your energy. Superficial conversations seem painful. It's like you've developed antennas that pick up more than they should. Fifth symptom: you started questioning everything. The meaning of your work, the purpose of your relationships, the meaning of life. It's not depression. It's your soul demanding authenticity. And here's the truth that will shock you. All this isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a sign that something is right, very right. Your soul is screaming because it knows you're capable of more. It knows you came here with a specific mission, and it won't stop bothering you until you listen. But society has taught you to medicate these symptoms, to silence this voice, to treat your spiritual unease as if it were a system failure. Let me tell you a story that changed my understanding of this forever. I met a 42-year-old woman, a successful executive. House, car, enviable career. But for 3 years, she woke up every morning with a tightness in her chest. The doctor said, anxiety. They gave her medication. The pain persisted. One day, she came to me, desperate. I have everything I ever dreamed of having, but I feel like I'm dying inside. How is this possible? I looked into her eyes and saw what I always see in these cases: a hungry soul being fed with superficial spiritual nourishment. Do you know what her problem was? She had built an entire life based on the expectations of others. Every choice she made was about pleasing her parents, her husband, society. But she never asked what her soul really wanted. And the soul, when ignored, always sickens the body. We worked together for 6 months. Today, she owns a small bookstore. She makes less money, but she woke up smiling in the morning for the first time in decades. The flame of her soul has returned to shine. Do you want to know what the turning point was? It was when she stopped trying to fix the symptoms and started listening to the underlying message. Because here's the secret that no one teaches you. Your spiritual exhaustion isn't the problem. It's the solution trying to emerge. It's your soul forcing you to stop, to reassess, to question whether the life you're living is really your life. Think with me. When was the last time you did something because your soul asked you to? Not your ego, not your mind, your soul. When was the last time you felt that feeling of being in the right place, doing the right thing, being truly yourself? If you took a while to answer, you've just discovered why you're spiritually exhausted. Now pay very close attention, because I'm going to reveal the 3 types of spiritual fatigue, and identifying yours is the first step towards definitive healing. Type 1, the fatigue of disconnection. This is when you feel like an actor acting out your own life. You do everything right, but nothing seems real. Nothing seems yours. It's like living on spiritual autopilot. Type 2, the fatigue of resistance. This happens when you know what your soul wants, but you fight against it. It can be fear, it can be social pressure, it can be self-sabotage, but you spend enormous energy swimming against the current of your own essence. Type 3, the fatigue of awakening. This is the most intense. It's when your soul is expanding, evolving, but you haven't yet learned to navigate this new version of yourself. It's like moving into a new house without knowing where the light switches are. Which of these 3 do you recognize yourself in the most? Because each type has a specific cure, and applying the wrong cure is like trying to cure a headache with foot cream. I'll be direct with you. If you've come this far, it's because your soul chose this moment to wake up. It's not a coincidence. Nothing in spiritual life is. Your soul programmed this encounter a long time ago, before you were even born, because it knew there would come a time when you would need to remember who you really are. And that time is now. But before I teach you how to cure each type of spiritual fatigue, I need you to understand one thing that will change your relationship with pain forever. Your soul doesn't want you to be happy. It wants you to be real. Happiness is a temporary emotion. Being real is a constant state of alignment with your deepest essence. And sometimes, to be real, you need to go through periods of discomfort, of questioning, of complete reconstruction of your identity. This isn't unnecessary suffering. It's accelerated spiritual growth. Think of the butterfly. To become a butterfly, it needs to completely dissolve within the chrysalis. For a time, it's no longer a caterpillar, but it's not yet a butterfly. It's a formless, undefined goo. Terrible? For the mind, yes, necessary. You might be going through the goo stage of your spiritual transformation, and you're interpreting this as depression or anxiety. But what if it were exactly the opposite? What if it were a sign that you're ready to fly? Let me tell you something that will sound strange at first, but that could change your life in the next few seconds. Your soul chose this body, this family, this historical era, these challenges. Everything was carefully selected so you could learn exactly what you need to learn. This includes your spiritual exhaustion. It's not a cosmic accident. It's part of the plan. It's your soul preparing you for the next phase of your evolution. But here's the problem. You were taught to run from pain, to medicate discomfort, to interpret any sign of change as something dangerous. Result? You're fighting against the process you should be embracing. It's like trying to stop surgery midway because it hurts. Of course it hurts. It's soul surgery. And now we arrive at the crucial point of all this. The point that separates those who truly heal from those who continue suffering for the next 20 years. There's a huge difference between spiritual exhaustion and clinical depression, and 90% of professionals confuse one with the other. In clinical depression, you lose hope. In spiritual exhaustion, you lose patience with inauthenticity. In clinical depression, you feel nothing. In spiritual exhaustion, you feel too much. In clinical depression, you want to give up on life. In spiritual exhaustion, you want to give up on a life that isn't yours. See the difference? One is the absence of vital energy. The other is vital energy being wasted in the wrong place. But the medical system treats everything as if it were the same thing. Result? Millions of people medicating spiritual symptoms with chemical solutions. I'm not saying that medications are always bad. There are cases where they are necessary. But I am saying that if your soul is screaming, no pill will make it stop. Because what it wants isn't in a pharmacy, it's inside you. And here we arrive at the most important moment of this conversation. Because now you need to make a decision. You can continue interpreting your symptoms as signs that something is wrong with you, and continue trying to fix them, and continue feeling more and more disconnected from life. Or you can start interpreting your symptoms as signs that something is right with you, that your soul is awakening, that you're ready for the next phase of your journey. The choice is yours. But know that this choice will determine the next few years of your life, because once you understand that your spiritual exhaustion is a calling, not a problem, everything changes. You stop fighting against yourself. You stop medicating to conform. You stop trying to be someone you're not, and you begin to build a life aligned with who you truly came to be in this world. But this requires courage, much more courage than continuing to suffer in silence. It requires the courage to disappoint people who expect you to remain who you always were. It requires the courage to let go of external securities to find internal security. It requires the courage to admit that maybe, just maybe, you built a life based on the wrong expectations. And above all, it requires the courage to trust that your soul knows what it's doing, even when your mind doesn't understand, even when the world doesn't approve, even when you're afraid, because your soul sees the whole picture. It knows where you need to go. It knows what you need to learn. It knows who you need to become, and it will continue to bother you until you listen. So answer me one thing, and be honest with yourself. How much longer will you pretend that what you feel is just a phase? How much longer will you try to silence the voice that's trying to save you? How much longer will you choose the familiarity of known suffering over the uncertainty of transformation? Because it's time to stop running away from yourself. It's time to stop interpreting your discomfort as a sign of failure. It's time to understand that you're not broken, you're awakening. And awakening is always uncomfortable. It always generates resistance. It always seems easier to go back to sleep. But once you've woken up, going back to sleep becomes impossible. So what do? Fight against expanded consciousness, or learn to navigate your new reality? The answer will determine whether you spend the next few years suffering for not being who you were, or celebrating who you are becoming. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next in this conversation. About how to transform your spiritual exhaustion into the driving force of your personal revolution. About how to decipher the signals your soul is sending. About how to distinguish fear from intuition. About how to build a life that nourishes your essence instead of draining your energy. Because your soul isn't screaming to bother you. It's screaming to awaken you. And once awakened, you will never again accept living asleep. Now I'm going to teach you exactly how to do this. How to transform your spiritual exhaustion into the fuel of your personal revolution. But first, you need to understand a fundamental truth that will change your relationship with the healing process forever. Spiritual healing doesn't happen from the outside in. It happens from the inside out. This means that no technique, no matter how powerful, will work if you're still trying to fix what you think is broken. You're not broken. You're in metamorphosis, and metamorphosis requires you to stop fighting against the process and start collaborating with it. So before any technique, before any practice, you need to do one thing. One simple but revolutionary thing. You need to stop apologizing to your soul for it being bothered. You need to stop trying to convince it that everything is okay when you know it's not. You need to look it in the eyes and say, "I hear you. I trust you. Show me the way." And then silence the mind and pay attention. Because your soul will answer. It always answers. You just need to learn her language. Remember the 3 types of spiritual exhaustion I mentioned. Now I'm going to teach you how to heal each one. Let's start with the first, the exhaustion of disconnection. If you feel like an actor playing your own life, if everything seems automatic and meaningless, your soul is telling you something very specific. You've lost contact with your essence. This happens when you spend years doing what you should do instead of what you really want to do. The cure for this type of exhaustion is reconnection, but not in the way you imagine. It's not about meditating for hours. It's not about going on spiritual retreats. It's not about changing religions. It's about small moments of authenticity scattered throughout the day. It's about paying attention to what makes your heart race, what makes your eyes sparkle, what makes you lose track of time. It's about doing more of that, even if it's only 5 minutes a day. Let me give you a practical example. A client of mine discovered that she always felt alive when she was cooking, but she had been working at an accounting firm for 15 years and thought cooking was just a hobby. I suggested she start bringing homemade food to her colleagues once a week. Just that. In 3 months, she was feeling like a different person. The food was just the excuse. What really healed her was honoring an authentic part of herself. 2 years later, she quit accounting and opened a healthy food service. Today, she wakes up excited to work. See how it works? You don't have to become a Tibetan monk. You just need to find ways to be more yourself within the life you already have. Now, if your problem is the second type, the exhaustion of resistance, the approach is completely different. This is when you know what your soul wants, but you fight against it. Maybe you know you need to leave a relationship that doesn't serve you, but you're afraid of loneliness. Maybe you know you need to change careers, but you're afraid of financial instability. Maybe you know you need to express yourself more authentically, but you're afraid of judgment. The exhaustion of resistance is the most painful of all, because you spend huge energy fighting against yourself. It's like driving with the parking brake on. You can still move, but the engine will burn out. The cure for this type of exhaustion isn't about courage, it's about trust. Trust that your soul won't take you anywhere you're not ready to be. Trust that what seems like a risk to your mind might be exactly what your life needs. Trust that you are stronger than you imagine, more resilient than you believe, more capable than society has taught you. But how do you develop this trust? Through small acts of courage, daily micro-revolutions. You don't have to quit your job tomorrow, but you can start updating your resume. You don't have to end the relationship today, but you can start having more honest conversations. You don't have to move to another country, but you can start learning that language you've always wanted to master. Each small step towards what your soul is asking builds evidence that you can trust yourself. And when you have evidence, the resistance naturally diminishes. Now, the third type, the exhaustion of awakening. This is the most complex of all. It's when your soul is evolving faster than your mind can keep up. It's when you feel like you're wearing clothes that don't fit anymore. Everything seems small, limited, insufficient. Old friendships no longer make sense. Old pleasures have lost their appeal. Superficial conversations have become unbearable. This isn't snobbery, it's expansion. Your consciousness has grown. Your sensitivity has increased. Your perception has deepened. But nobody taught you how to navigate this new version of yourself. The world continues to function at the same pace, but you're operating at a completely different frequency. This creates a feeling of deep isolation, as if you were an alien trying to pass as human. The cure for the exhaustion of awakening is integration. You need to learn how to honor your new sensitivity without becoming a hostage to it. You need to find ways to connect with people who are on the same frequency as you. You need to create sacred spaces in your routine where you can be completely yourself, without filters. And most importantly, you need to understand that awakening spiritually doesn't mean becoming better than others. It means becoming more yourself. And that includes accepting all parts of who you are. The enlightened parts and the shadowy parts. The evolved parts and the parts that are still growing. Because here's a truth that few people talk about: spiritual awakening. It doesn't make you perfect. It makes you whole. And being whole means embracing the complexity of the human experience. It means stopping trying to be only light and accepting that you also have darkness. It means stopping judging your emotions as good or bad and starting to see them as information. It means stopping running away from what's uncomfortable and starting to investigate what it has to teach you. Now, regardless of which type of spiritual exhaustion you've identified in yourself, there's one fundamental practice that will accelerate any healing process. And this practice will sound strange at first, but trust me, you need to start talking to your soul. No, it's not crazy. It's literally what wise people have been doing for thousands of years. Every morning, before picking up your phone, before worrying about the day's tasks, sit in a quiet place and ask a simple question. Soul, what do you need from me today? And then, listen. Not with your ears, with your heart, with your intuition, with that part of you that knows things before the mind can explain. The answer may come as a feeling, as an image, as a sudden urge to do something specific. It might be, I need you to rest more. It might be, I need you to be braver. It might be, I need you to stop comparing yourself to others. The important thing isn't how the answer comes. It's that you create the habit of asking. Because when you stop treating your soul as if it were invisible, it stops screaming to get your attention. And when it stops screaming, you stop feeling exhausted. But here's something nobody tells you about this conversation with the soul. Sometimes it will ask for things you don't want to hear. It might ask you to be more honest, more vulnerable, more authentic. It might ask you to let go of toxic relationships, jobs that drain your energy, habits that sabotage your growth. She might ask you to forgive people you're not ready to forgive. She might ask you to take risks your mind deems dangerous. And that's where the magic happens. Or the resistance intensifies. Because your soul doesn't lie. It doesn't have a political agenda. It's not afraid of social judgment. It only wants one thing, for you to live the life you came here to live. Not the life your parents planned for you. Not the life society approves of. Not the life that seems safest. The life that makes your energy vibrate at a frequency of total alignment. And when you live that life, spiritual exhaustion naturally disappears. Not because you don't have problems anymore, but because your problems start to make sense within a larger context. They become part of your growth journey, instead of obstacles to your happiness. But let me be clear about one thing. This process isn't fast, and it's not always comfortable. Healing spiritual exhaustion isn't like taking a headache pill. It's more like doing physical therapy after surgery. It hurts in the beginning. It's uncomfortable. It requires discipline. But each day you get a little stronger, a little more aligned, a little more whole. And there comes a time when you look back and you don't even remember what it felt like to be spiritually exhausted. Because you've built a life that nourishes your soul instead of draining your energy. A life where you don't have to pretend to be someone you're not. A life where your values are aligned with your actions. A life where you feel at home in your own body, in your own routine, in your own choices. But to get there, you need to make a decision that will scare your mind and liberate your soul. You need to decide that your authenticity is worth more than the approval of others. You need to decide that your inner peace is worth more than your external security. You need to decide that being true to yourself is worth more than being accepted by people who don't really know you. This decision will change everything. Literally everything. Your relationships will change. Some will deepen. Others will fade away. Your work might change. You might discover talents you didn't know you had. Your routine will change. You'll prioritize different things. Your perspective on what's important in life will change completely. And in the beginning, this might seem scary, because change always generates insecurity. It always activates our primitive fears of rejection and abandonment. But here's what'll happen on the other side of this transformation. You'll discover that being rejected for being authentic hurts infinitely less than being accepted for being false. You'll discover that having fewer relationships, but real ones, is far more nourishing than having many superficial relationships. You'll discover that earning less money, doing something you love, is more satisfying than earning a lot of money, doing something you hate. You'll discover that living a simple but aligned life is more pleasurable than living a complex and disconnected life. And most importantly, you'll discover that your soul wasn't screaming to bother you. It was screaming to liberate you. So now I want to ask a question that only you can answer. And the answer you give will determine if this video was just another piece of information you consumed, or the turning point of your life. After everything we've talked about here, after recognizing yourself in the symptoms, after understanding that your exhaustion is a calling, what are you going to do? Are you going to go back to your old life, pretending you didn't hear what your soul is trying to tell you? Will you continue treating the symptoms instead of listening to the underlying message? Will you continue prioritizing the opinions of others over your own intuition? Or will you have the courage to start, today, building a life that honors who you really are? Because I can guarantee you one thing: your soul won't give up on you. It might get quiet for a while if you keep ignoring it. But it always comes back. It always finds a way to remind you that you have a purpose, that you came here for a reason, that there's a version of you waiting to be born. The question is, how long are you going to make it wait? How long will you choose the familiarity of known suffering over the uncertainty of transformation? How long will you treat your discontent as a flaw instead of as direction? Because it's time to stop fighting against who you're becoming. It's time to stop apologizing for feeling like you deserve more from life. It's time to stop interpreting your sensitivity as weakness. It's time to understand that you're not broken, you're not sick, you're not wrong. You are awakening, and awakening always disrupts before it liberates. So take a deep breath. Feel this moment. Feel this possibility opening up inside your chest. Your soul smiling now, because finally you listened. You understood that the exhaustion wasn't the end. It was the beginning of your journey back home. Home to yourself. And once you arrive home to who you really are, you'll never again accept living as a visitor in your own life. You'll never again accept relationships that require you to be smaller. You'll never again accept work that stifles your creativity. You'll never again accept routines that ignore your deepest needs. Because you've discovered something that most people never discover. You are stronger than you imagine, wiser than you believe, more deserving of love and respect than you were taught. And most importantly, your soul knows exactly where it wants to take you. You just need to trust it. You just need to stop trying to control the process and start collaborating with it. You just need to remember that you were made to fly. And spiritual exhaustion? It was just the weight of the chains you put on yourself. Now that you know this, you can choose to take them off, one by one, until you discover that you are always free, always complete, always exactly who you needed to be. Your soul knew this all along. It was just waiting for you to remember.